Welcome to Father-Son Flight Sim. Today we're going to be demonstrating the VOR DME approach into Lompoc. Our flight from Palomar to Lompoc earlier today did not go as planned in the recording. It didn't really capture any of our sounds off of the machine, so we got a soundless video, but it's enough to maybe demonstrate what happened towards this flight, and we thought it might be fun to turn this into a IFR demonstration. It's the first time I've actually flown into Lompoc, never flew there in the real world. You can see it's surrounded by lots of restricted airspace, and it starts at Gaviota. We're flying right now at about 8,000 feet, and we will need to descend as we approach Gaviota VOR to start the approach. And as we step through the approach, we will go through all of the steps that it takes to do the procedure correctly. We'll review the missed approach, and even though we don't actually do the missed approach because we have great weather, the weather actually does load up a little bit later. The weather is actually, scattered clouds. You can't see them right now, but they do actually load in as we get over Gaviota. And so we do have a little bit of IMC going in. And right now you can see we've begun our descent from 8,000 feet. And we're going to descend very slowly as we approach the Gaviota VOR. And then we'll begin the approach at that point. The VOR DME is, it's one of the types of approaches where the intercept waymarks are defined by a radial and a distance from a certain point, or at least from a certain measurement point, which you can get on the DME instrument reading on the nav panel there. And if you don't know where that is, it's the bottom blue box will display the DME information for the VOR that you have dialed in. And on the approach plate you will see the radial, which we will be flying. And I have that radial dialed in already, at least on the nav. It's even though I'm navigating to Gaviota, I actually have the outbound radial sort of triggered in there on the heading, so I'm ready for it. And then we fly basically stepwise down in altitude as we get to the intercept distances from the VOR on the radial. Right now we're sort of flying over Santa Barbara. We're above the Class Charlie airspace. We're not on ATC right now, so we are going to assume that they've given us clearance to descend. About 5,000 is the minimum on this airway, so we're still good with those mountains. And when you start the approach after Gaviota, you're basically going to descend to 4,300 feet. goes the weather popping in unexpectedly. So I checked the AWAS over in Lompoc. There's no ATIS, there's no tower. Just checking the altimeter and the winds. So we should be popping out of the clouds somewhere around 4,000, maybe 3,700 feet. But it's scattered. It's good practice. Actually doing these things with actual IMC in the simulator. I've leveled out at 5,000 feet now. Just 2 minutes left to go to Gaviota before we start our turn and start the approach. We're about to hit Gaviota VOR, which is the initiating point for the approach. Let's throw the on the screen. We're going to throw the plate back on, and we'll see what our first intercept target is. So we've reached Gaviota. We are now turning on the radial to 278. Our first point is Quebec intercept, which is 9 nautical miles. Per the approach, we are good to go down to 4,300 feet. And I am about to take it off of autopilot and fly this thing in. Make sure it's all off, so I have no indicators there. Alright, I am now off of autopilot and free to descend to 4,300 feet and hold it. I popped out of the clouds there at 4,700. Now, it may not look like I'm using the GPS, but I am actually not using the GPS. I'm not flying the magenta line. I'm trying to fly on the CDI needle, which is on the heading indicator, and I'm using only the DME indication that's on the lower blue box of the GPS. So you see I'm a little bit off on the radial, so I'm correcting to get back on, and I'm watching for that first nautical miles, which is 9 nautical miles for the intercept. And also I've just hit 4,300 feet. I'm slowed the plane down below where I can drop the gear, so very shortly I'm going to drop the gear as well. And I just dropped the gear, and we'll see we have all 3 lights going, and when I did that we slowed the plane down. I began to descend, so I have to get right back up. If I was in IMC I'd be a little concerned because I'm now 200 feet below where I should be, but I can correct for that. I'm going to climb back up. You gotta watch for that. I probably should have waited till Quebec intercept to actually drop the gear, but it's okay. We got right back up to 4,300 feet and we're back on track. And we're back on the radial. We have about 1 mile to go. We're at 8 miles. We've got to be at 9 to get to the intercept. And we have reached the intercept now. So we can now proceed towards the next one and we can descend. Let's throw our plate back up so we can review it. Next intercept will be Korka, which is 12.7 nautical miles on radial 278, and we can descend down to 3,300 feet on this leg. The next one. Just about reached Korka. We're at 3,300 feet where we're supposed to be. Let's put our plate back up to see what the next one is. And our next intercept is at Femic, which is 15 nautical miles on the radial from GVO. Minimum altitude is 2,700 feet. Notice that we are traveling on a cockeyed slant to the runway. The runway is actually 250. or 255 or something like that. So we're about a little over 20 degrees off, and we'll have to make a left turn to actually land on the runway. Alright, we're dropping the flaps now. We have reached Femic, or right next to it. Now we can drop down. This is the main descent. The furthest descent on the track. We can go down to 1,440 feet, or 1,440 feet. And we have 3.5 miles to get there on radial 278 to intercept Haylav, which is 18.5 nautical miles from Gaviota VOR. Clouds are no longer a factor. Clouds were scattered at 3,700 feet, so we don't have to worry about the clouds anymore, but I've never been to this runway, and I still don't see it on the screen. Now that we're almost down to our altitude, we should be ready for a missed approach. If we do run into a missed approach, which we probably shouldn't in this case, we climb straight out, 1,440 feet. Right turn straight to Guadalupe VOR, which is already preset in my nav 1110. And we then climb to 3,500 feet and initiate a hold pattern once we get there on radial 120. Left turns, 2-minute turns. So we're ready for that if the event does happen and we don't see the runway in time. We have until Kintz to actually do that, which is about a half a mile or less to the runway, or to the airport I should say. Alright, we've reached a Haylav intercept. Our decision altitude is now 1,340 feet, which is the minimum. And we see the runway now. Runway 25 is in sight. I am now going to turn base and then to final. We're going full flaps because I have a lot of altitude to lose. And we have a little bit of a crosswind here. Turning to final. Hard on the landing, I think. We'll go back and take a look at that in a minute. Right on the center line though, and that's how you complete the approach using a VOR DME type approach into Lompoc. it's good to practice these types of approaches because you know, everybody practices ILS. Those are the most common. And sometimes, you know, you don't have any choice at an airport like this to use an RNAV approach or a VOR type approach. So they're good to practice and know. Let's take a look at that landing again. Coming in with full flaps, and I'm targeting 85 knots for the landing. Had a lot of altitude to lose there, but we landed okay, a little bit of a hard landing maybe. It had some bounce out of the main wheels, but right on center line, can't complain. Now I'm sorry we haven't published in a while. We've had lots of technical difficulties in our live streams and in some of our videos that we've recorded. We've actually recorded probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 hours of, or at least we thought we were recording 4 to 6 hours of good video. Even had a really good example of an emergency in flight in one of these Barons. Had an engine go out, and would love to show that to you. Maybe we can save some of that footage and do something similar to what we did here and just do a short video of that particular incident and how we recovered from it. I haven't really analyzed that video yet to see what actually happened. I still don't really know why the engine went out. Totally unexpected, totally unplanned. But unfortunately you don't have any audio. I'm talking with VatSim the entire time, but all you can hear is my voice. You don't hear anything from the in-game. Maybe we can do something with it, I don't know. Thanks for watching Father-Son Flight Sim. We are now parked and shutting down. Be sure to follow us on more videos. We'll be live streaming soon. We'll see you and have a good day.